everyone, Simsy Claire here and welcome back. Today we're doing a Sims 4 speed build in Strangerville. Now, I don't build in Strangerville a lot because after I finished the gameplay of it, I was kind of done with the world, which sucks because it is a gorgeous world, but I haven't really been back since I did the gameplay, but here we are. And I was inspired to do this house by a real life house that's actually just down the street from me. Now, I had no idea this house existed because I never really walk that way, but we've decided to change up our walking route, and so we've been going down by the water, and this house is absolutely gorgeous. Like, I don't even know if I do it justice here in The Sims, but the moment I saw it, I looked at my sister and I said, Strangerville, because the front door was this cream and red, and it had all these glass details that just reminded me of the Strangerville doors that we got. And then all of the windows were the exact same color, the cream and the red, and it was absolutely gorgeous. So I decided to sit down after our walk today and do this build. Now here you see me messing with the roof of the house on this piece. I was trying to do something that I saw Simlissy do in one of her videos, but I couldn't quite get it to work, and I was watching the video while I was doing this, trying to figure out what she had done, and I still just could not figure it out. I think what I end up doing looks okay, and it works, but it's just not as smooth as I think I would have liked it to be, so I'm definitely going to be trying to practice that a bit. And that piece that I have there, the little outskirt there, that's not actually in the original house that I designed this after. However, I thought that it looked a little bare on the front. The house in real life is a little smaller, so it didn't have as much empty space with all the windows and doors in, but I thought this one would have a little bit of extra space, so I decided to add a little architectural element, and I'm so glad that I did because that's the only way I could fit a downstairs bathroom. And so if I didn't put that in there, then there'd only be one bathroom in the whole house, and this does sleep 3. And if you wanted to, I'm sure it could sleep 4 because I put an office in there, but you could make that another bedroom or put a double bed in the bedroom that I have a single bed in, so it could sleep 4, maybe even 5 if you're overly ambitious. But I decided to just stick with 3 because I wanted one of the parents in this to be a police officer. So I wanted to give them a nice little desk area that had all of the police stuff that we got with Get to Work. And then here you see me fiddling with the fence. I do decide to extend it a little bit. I extended around the side of that window area, and I think that looks a bit more cohesive. Like, I think it blocks off the space rather nicely. I can't fit anything in there though, at least not for your Sims to be able to use. So I did just put a bike against the window there, and I thought that it matched because the bedroom I decorated upstairs was definitely for a teenager, so I figured she rode her bike to school, and when she came home, she just like threw her bike down on the porch and went inside to go do her homework. So I thought that was kind of a neat idea. And then you'll see me fiddle around with a stairway railing for a little bit, and I don't really find one that I end up liking, but I think I leave one until I end up deleting the stairs when I lower the foundation, and then I never raise the foundation back up because I couldn't really find a foundation that matched. And even though I think the one that I have right here looks good, it wasn't really exactly what I was going for, so I do just leave it as a flat house, and I think it looks really good. And then here you see I moved the house. I do also end up adding an extension off on the left side, and that's where I end up placing the kitchen. Now, I cannot remember if I put that extension in the video or if I cut it out when I cut out the floor planning, because I did cut out quite a bit in this video. I was having an issue. I did this landscaping trick with the gardening rocks to create like a rock wall around the flower beds, and that took me in real life probably about 40 minutes, which is a little sad, but it did. And so that made this video over an hour. It was like an hour and 25 minutes even when it was sped up, so I decided to cut out most of me working with the rocks, and then also a lot of the floor planning too, because it took me a while to get the floor plan correct, because I knew I wanted it to be a family house, so I needed 2 bedrooms, and I wanted there to be a police officer in the family, so I did want there to be an office for them to have all their work stuff in. So I was just trying to fit everything. And here you see I'm just working more on the landscaping. I was considering using that pebble texture around the house for the flower beds as well, but I decided that would be a little too much, and I really wanted them to have like a brown, like gardeny area, even though we are kind of in the desert, but they're in a grassy area, so I figured that they get their lawn maintained pretty much. And then here I was thinking about putting a barrier around the garbage can so that you couldn't see them, but I decided just to leave it, and I'm happy that I did since I do have that extension off to that side of the house. And then here I take a little pause to think about exactly what I'm going to do, and then I grab out the rocks that I'm going to use, and basically how I work it is I take out the rocks from the gardening section that we have, and I use the red color, and then I size them all down and I just line them up and merge them into each other so it looks like a bit of a rock wall, and I think it looks really cool. And then there you see, that's where I jumped, so you can see that what I did with the rocks here around the mailbox, and basically I did that all around the side of the house. And that's why it took me so long, because I was trying to make it not look too like planned, more natural, and yet still nice looking, I guess. And then here I'm going through and adding in the Strangerville plants. I keep zooming out so I can see what plants are around, because I think the Strangerville plants are gorgeous, but they take up a lot of space, so like I have to size them down every time that I use them, and so I have to be sure that they're being placed properly. And I also, you've seen me doing a couple of my other builds, and I've touched on it before, I always try and match what's on the outside of the world with what I'm building on the lot, so I always try and make sure that it is cohesive. And then here I'm just adding a little seating area up front. Like I said, I wasn't quite sure what to put on this porch. I never am. Porches are awkward for me, but I do usually do a seating area, and then I try to get some skill building if I think it'll fit the family. But this family, since one was a cop and then one I planned on being a teacher, I didn't really know what skill building to put, so I just left a seating area, and then that's where I put the bike. And then I add a bird bath, because the house in the real world that I was basing this off of did have a bird bath. It wasn't right at the front of their house, it was closer to the road, but still I thought it was a cute little feature to add since we do have those in the game. And then here I go in, and this is where I throw all the lights up, and I am about to cut out here in a second to do as I do the floor planning, as I mentioned earlier, just because it took me a really long time. You can see how this space is kind of small, and since this is a family house, I wanted to make sure that there was enough space to do the 2 bedrooms and an office, so I needed to make sure that I could fit everything. And this is where I add the extension to do the kitchen, and basically I just make it the same color as the rest of the house, same features, the red windows, and then I just get a nice little kitchen area in there. It is still small, you can see how small that space is, but I think it works. And then here we're picking out the walling and the flooring. Now, I was going to go with the parenthood walls, and I do end up using them in the kitchen, but I decided that maybe this house was a little older, so it came with the original wallpapering, so I decided to use the ones from Vampires, and I think it looks really good because it's so subtle, and you can only see the pattern if you like zoom up real close, so I think it looks really nice. And then here I was going to do a feature wall, and like with red, to bring the red on from the outside to the inside, but I couldn't get it to work because of that line in the stairs, and it was really bothering me, so I decided to just keep the original wallpaper, and then in the end you'll see me put some pictures up there to try and block the line in the stairs, but it doesn't really work, but I think it looks okay. And then here you see I just pull out the parenthood walls, and I use the ones with the tiles for where the counter spots are going to go, and then I use the plain ones around the rest of the kitchen. And then here I'm using the vampire floors. I used those in both bathrooms because they were white and red like the outside of the house, and I thought that they looked really cute. They are a bit bold, but I think because I put plain walls up that they look okay. And then here I'm just placing the wallpapers and floors in the rest of the house. This is going to be the parents' room right here. I gave them the Magical Realm, I think that's what the pack is called, flooring, and then just plain walls. And I also gave the daughter plain walls, but I did this like purplish gray because I really wanted her to be into the Strangerville mystery. And if you look at the posters that they give you really closely, they all have like a muted gray tone and like a cream, and then splashes of purple and green. So I really wanted to play off of those posters, so that way I could place those up on her walls. And then here you see me, I originally was going to do this plant corner here because I usually have one plant corner in every build, but I do end up moving it over to the other side because I realized I wasn't going to have enough room for the dining table. if I started placing the coat rack and the umbrella rack on the other side of the door, so I do end up moving those plants and doing most of the entranceway stuff right on where those plants are now. And here, I wasn't going to use these Strangerville paintings because I forgot that they only had, or I thought that they only had the one swatch, the one with the car. And then as I was going through and I realized they had more swatches, I was like, oh, that's perfect, because a lot of them had like the rocks that are surrounding Strangerville, and they had all the same colors that I was trying to use. And here you go. This is where I switch over that area. And I just think it works better with the table because, as I said, this is a family and I couldn't fit a table in the kitchen. And usually when I can't do that, I do prefer there to be a formal dining area just so there's a definite place where everyone can sit and eat together during gameplay. And then here I'm just trying to pick out some decorations for this area. I was first going to try and use the Strangerville stuff, but pretty much everything we got with Strangerville, besides the doors and the windows, has to do with the Strangerville mystery. So I decided just to use that fruit bowl that we have there. And then here you see me putting up some pet decorations. Now, I couldn't decide if I thought this family would have a cat or a dog, or maybe even both. So I do place 2 food bowls here in case you do have 2 pets. And then I end up putting a cat scratch-like tree, the wooden one from Cats and Dogs, and then I put a dog's toy box out in the backyard. So you could have either one or both. But I did put a dog statue up here just because I think those are so cute. And I decided to put the dog treats out here just so it was kind of like all the dog stuff was in one place. It wasn't, spreading around. It was just all in one area. And I wasn't sure how much space I was going to have in the kitchen to do extra decorations like that. So I did decide just to leave the kitchen for the kitchen clutter. And now here you see, I'm trying to pull out these couches here. And this is where I was originally going to try and mix things up because when I do exteriors like old Victorian style or pretty much every time I'm in Windenburg, I always use those same couches from Get Together. The ones that are pretty much in that exact same swatch that you see me use there. And I used those in a build recently, so I was like, I can't use those. And then I remembered that I lost the footage for that build. And I was really upset about it because that house took me a really long time and I really liked how it looked. But I unfortunately did somehow end up losing the footage of me building the house. Now I still have all the footage of the interior, so if you guys would like to see that, you can comment down below and I will definitely edit that and post that for you. But I do not have any videos of me doing the outside, which it really sucks because it was a farm. It had all these areas for crops, so I did these cute like terrain paint things where I created little crop beds, and I just thought it was a fun little thing, but it didn't end up working. And then that I just finished up the living room, and then here I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna try and figure out something to put on that wall there because I thought it looked a little bare. I believe I end up just using a curtain and then leaving that wall empty. But I don't know, I have this issue where sometimes I either never place anything on the walls and everything just looks bare, or I place too much and it just looks too crowded. So I was thinking about that wall looking too bare in the screenshots, and then I was like, no, I think it'll be okay. I'll just take it from a different angle, and the screenshots do look pretty, so I think that was the right decision. And then going in here, I'm placing those same curtains that I used in the living room, in the dining room, in the kitchen. And I had to mess with them a little bit on some of the windows to make sure that they would fit. And I'm using red curtains so that way I can bring the red from the windows onto the interior. And then, oh, I do end up placing a picture there. Okay, I totally forgot about that. And then here you can see we're going in. I'm using the Parenthood counters. I really liked how the brown worked with it was like a reddish brown, so I thought it matched without being too matchy to the curtains that I had used. And then you will see here, I go about decorating the entire kitchen and then I forget I don't have a stove. So closer to the end, after I start pulling out some of the clutter decorations, you will see that I have to go back in and I move the trash can over to the other side of the kitchen, and then I put a stove right there where the trash can is. And because I pulled out this decoration, which I always place next to the stove, and then I realized that I didn't have a stove to place it next to. So that's when I pulled out the stove. And then I'm just going through, I pulled out quite a few decorations for this kitchen. Since it was a family build, I wanted it to look pretty cluttered. Now, in the screenshots, you will see that those cards disappear, and that's because so when I was doing this, they looked like they were fitting on top of the microwave pretty accurately, but then when I went to go take the screenshots, they were kind of floating above the microwave, and I could not stand how it looked, so I did decide just to take them out. I hope that's okay. And then, yeah, here I'm just finishing cluttering everything up. I used the dish rack from Parenthood, and then some paper towels, and then the cookbooks and a knife rack. And then I used tea. I was thinking about putting a tea machine in here, but I didn't think I'd have enough counter space to where the kitchen could still be functional, so I decided to leave it. And then here you see, this is where I move on to the bathroom. It's a really awkwardly shaped bathroom, and I couldn't really fit a lot in here, and the spacing on everything's a little weird because of how awkwardly shaped it is, but I think it's okay. I pretty much, because the windows are right there, I have to use a standing mirror, and then it's right in front of the window, so it's a little awkward, but it does work. And then here you see I'm gonna have to mess with the curtains again because they always like snap to right above where you want them, which is really inconvenient, but it's also kind of weird, especially now that the windows don't snap into place anymore. That was a fix in the patch, or the update that we just got, so it's kind of weird that the curtains still do it, but it's okay. And then there you see me place that mirror. I never use this mirror. I do believe it's a base game mirror, and it's just always so fancy, but I thought that it looked really good here. And then here you see I'm just trying to fill in some of the bare spaces and walls, and I get a couple of decorations in there, but not a lot. And then I'm going up here. I wanted to do something in the hallway area, but it's really tiny, so I wasn't sure what to do. I put some windows on this side, and then I end up decorating a table at the end there, because the sim can't, I mean, they could walk there, but if I put anything there, they wouldn't be able to use it. So I decided pure decoration was the way we were going to go. And here you see I used the cats and dog table, and then I pulled out a plant, and I think some books, and then a light. And then I put one of those Strangerville pictures right above the, yeah, right here. I put the Strangerville picture right above the table. And then I put some of the case files down there. I put a case files in a couple of different areas around this build. I figured with a cop and a teacher or a professor, there would be a lot of extra files running around, and it would spill out into other places. So I thought that that was kind of like a cute little touch to add, because I also put some in the bedroom. And then, although now that I think about it, I think the one place I did not put any was in the office. I don't remember placing any files in the office, so maybe they just don't have enough space. And then here we go, moving into the parents' bedroom. I was going to use that base game bed, and then the brown just wasn't working for me, so I decided to go with this cats and dogs. And I think it works a lot better with the floor that I have going on here. And then I put plants on each side of the tables, and then I do a couple of debug decorations. Like I think I get a notepad out, and then I can't remember what I put on the other table. I think it's a book. So I was kind of thinking like the notepad would be for whoever was the cop, and the book would be for whoever was the professor. I know, very stereotypical, but that's just what I was going with. And then I also believe I end up placing a picture right above the bed. I can't remember if I reused the Strangerville painting again, because I do know I used that quite a few times in this build. But I might also use one of the base game pictures, because those match the Strangerville pictures very well as long as you use the right swatches. And I don't use them a lot because they always just look so fancy, and they don't really match a lot of the builds that I do. But I think in builds like these, or ones in Strangerville or Windenburg in particular, they look really good. And then here you see I wanted to do something with this corner, so I placed a light and a plant, I believe. I considered doing more than one plant, but I end up leaving it with just one. And I think that that's okay. I thought about putting the mirror there, but then I had all this empty space on this side of the room. So I do put the mirror over here with the dresser, and I use the Seasons dresser. Now it does kind of block the bottom of the window, but because of how big those windows are, we were going to have that issue with pretty much any dresser we had used, so I decided that this one would be okay because that wood tone looked like it matched the floor, in my opinion. And then here I'm just picking out some decorations to put on top of the dresser. I used this one from Jungle Adventure, and I really like this item. I'm not 100% sure what it is. It just kind of looks like sticks inside of a bowl, but it's gorgeous and it's aesthetically pleasing, so I do use it quite a bit. And then here I'm going through and adding curtains into the bedroom. and fixing the windows because they were a little off center. And then I do leave that tiny window without any curtains because I didn't think any were gonna fit, and I wasn't quite sure what to do with it, but I didn't want to delete it because it looked so good from the outside. And then here I go, and I'm going into the teenager's bedroom. Now, like I said, my idea for her was that since they moved here, she has been so interested in the Strangerville mystery. So I put her dresser over here, and I give her a few clutter items like a mirror and some perfume and makeup. But then when I go over to go do her desk, I like cover the wall with all the Strangerville posters because they all really match the color scheme that I went for in here. I said that earlier in the video that's why I chose this color scheme. But I also think that they're really cool items. But it's really weird because a lot of them are either military based or they're like alien based, and so you can't really put them in a lot of builds unless you do like your kid wants to be an astronaut or your kid wants to be in the Air Force, which is totally fine. But like here, like one has the Loch Ness Monster on it, and so it's kind of like they are definitely like conspiracy theory posters. But I think that they look so good and they're so pretty, like the designs on them, so I really do enjoy using them. I just can't use them all that often. And then that's it for the teenager's room, so we're going over into the office now. And like I said, I knew one of the parents was going to be a cop, and I don't know why I chose cop. I could have chosen Army because we were in Strangerville, but I kind of figured that they were brought in as like a new police chief because of everything that was going on with the people. Like they had lived in a different town, maybe Oasis Springs, and then he had gotten this job opportunity because he was kind of like I don't know, he was good at his job, but he was what are they called, like a conspiracy theorist. So he like dug really deep into like his stories, and he like knew all about like the aliens and stuff, so they wanted him in an area where that would be useful. And then I figured the other parent was a professor. Now I kind of came up with this one on the spot. I was originally going to make them a scientist, but I didn't want to put any of the science stuff in the house because I thought it would look too modern, and I just wasn't 100% sure that that's how I wanted the story to go. So I did end up making them a professor, and I think that the office area looks so cute. So I'm really happy that I made that decision. And then here, see, I'm just putting a couple more decorations around. And then we do move on to the bathroom here. Now, I thought about using the Parenthood bathroom, but it was just too modern, and it didn't really match the floor. So I do go with the vampire bathtub, and it's not the best option because it does look very, very Victorian, but I figured going with what I said earlier, that maybe this was a really old house, maybe that was the original shower, so they just left it. And then I throw a couple of clutter items on the counters right here, and then I think that's pretty much it because I didn't want to shove too much in this bathroom because I wanted to make sure it was usable because it is the only shower that we have. And then we're moving on to the outside. So I put a little patio area out here that matches almost exactly to the one that we have out front. And this is where I thought about adding the stairs again and raising the foundation, but then I decided it was okay, like we didn't need stairs. And I didn't do any terrain tools with this build, so I didn't think it was necessary to put in a foundation, particularly since we didn't have one that matched very well. And then here I'm trying to find something to put on that bare wall right there, and I don't think I ever find anything. I think I end up leaving it blank. But I do start finding decorations. Oh, I put the dog box there, I think to kind of even it out a little bit. And then here I give them a little seating area. And these wicker items are not ideal. They match the color scheme of the rest of the house, but they don't really match like the Victorian vibe. But we don't have a lot of outdoor furniture that does. So I kind of just went with what matched the best. So I hope that's okay. And I think it looks good from the outside, particularly since there isn't a whole lot of the Victorian architecture back here. So I think it looks okay. And then here you see I'm just adding a swing set here and a couple more garden areas. I do not put rocks around these just because I kind of leave them more natural, and I like place the plants kind of half on, half off the lot. So I figured these were just overgrown from what's on the outskirts. And then here you see I'm just going through placing those plants in and sizing them down a bit so they don't interfere with the playability of the house. And then here I'm adding a little patch just because the area looked a little bare considering that the other side of the house had that extension on it. So I do just mess around with that for a little bit, and then I decided to add a pool so that way we didn't have this big empty space in the yard. And I do like how the pool ends up looking, so I'm really happy that I decided to do that. And this pool is the last thing I do, so I hope you all enjoyed this build and you stick around for the next one, so I'll see you all again soon. Bye!